we're continuing on with chapter 10. I think we're going to end up with 3 videos this chapter instead of just 2. So let's get started with our disease and disorder terms built from word parts. These are all found in some of the exercises that I assigned. Remember, know how to break them apart with the lines and know how to be able to define each portion because we are going to be doing more of that. What they did in the PowerPoint is that they started with the cardiovascular. They gave you disease and disorder terms built from word parts. Then they went to blood, and then they went to lymphatic system. So those are all words that you can break apart. I'm going to go through a few of these that are very common that I think you need to know, and there are a few slides we'll go through. Aneurysm, angina pectoris, that's going to mean that you're having chest pains. Arrhythmia is an irregular heartbeat. Cardiac arrest means your heart has stopped beating. Congenital heart disease means that you were born with it. It was a birth defect. Congestive heart failure is when there's a big accumulation of fluid around the heart. And coronary artery disease, I'll show you some slides in just a minute for that as well. Aortic stenosis. Stenosis means just narrowing of a vessel, and you can see right here that the valve is normally open this big, but when it gets stenosed or hard, it doesn't open nearly as much. So you can imagine what happens to that blood flow. The blood flow is slowed, and it's going to lead to complications. Atrial fibrillation. This slide just shows you the difference in what the heart rhythm really looks like. We're not going to get into that. This is something I really want you guys to pay attention to because aneurysms, believe it or not, are common. They used to be very, very bloody surgeries, and a lot of times the patient would just bleed out because it was just a bloody surgery. Now there's a lot of times they can remove an aneurysm, and the patient does very well. So if you notice right here, an aneurysm is just going to be a ballooning of the blood vessel, and it's just because it's weakened, and so it's going to allow that blood to flow in a wider area. So notice right here, this enlarged area right here, that's an aneurysm. If this goes undetected and untreated, it's going to keep getting larger and larger and larger. And think of it as a balloon. A balloon, the wall of the balloon gets thinner and thinner as it gets bigger, as does a blood vessel when there's an aneurysm in there. So it gets thinner and thinner, and at some point it's going to rupture, just like a balloon will once you blow it up too full. So what they do is they go in and they're going to clamp off above and below the aneurysm, remove this portion, and place an artificial portion right up in here. It's important that you get diagnosed right away. So you know the aorta, all the blood from the heart exits the heart and goes to the body through the aorta, which is up here. So imagine having an aortic aneurysm, and that is very dangerous, very deadly, because there's not much time. If this breaks, if this bursts, there's not much time. You're going to bleed out relatively quickly. But medicine is so advanced today that they can do a lot with aneurysms. The next thing I wanted to just some word parts for the rest. Deep vein thrombosis are going to be blood clots within the legs. Myocardial infarction is when a person has a heart attack. Not built from word parts for blood. Anemia is when you don't have enough iron in the blood. Leukemia is when you have too many white blood cells in the blood. And sepsis is when you have bacterial infection that has spread to the bloodstream. I think most of you are familiar with mono. Infectious mononucleosis is the real term for mono, and that's where you get a disorder of the lymphatic system. So I think we're going to stop right here, and we'll pick up on our surgical terms on the next video.